It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's July 10th, 2022. I'm just following what the big board. I'm in the natural world, and I'm just watching the big board of unnatural light. And the words from the wind and visual references that someone created for some communications purpose. And then my overlay parlay, my interpretation of what is, or what is going on here and how it relates to what's going on there for a special purpose. Yesterday, the big board alerted me that there's some celebration I have no knowledge of other than what they show me. That's a celebration that was taking place, they said yesterday, inside of New York, but also outside of New York. They said it happens all around the world. It's some kind of holiday to celebrate something called an Ibrahim. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it before. I don't know how one finds out about it, since it's happening in New York, and I don't know if it puts my life in danger, but it is very frightening, I will tell you, as like the mother of the cosmos, and I have a divergent, I have ancestry, I have cosmology, and not only astrophysics, but also in numerical physics and context, as well as biological, anatomical, and physiological. So it is very concerning when I'm here, especially without I'm in America, but I'm without Eric. I don't understand how that ever happened. I know Nicholas is the name taken of the person who is supposed to take me and protect me and wrap himself around me like a shield. But there are times where we rely on Eric. If something happens to Niklaus, or Niklaus can't leave his important feature elsewhere. So I do not understand why I've been left without Eric in America, on this side of the whatever. So I'm watching this big board, and Saturday night at 6 p.m. on this Eyewitness News, which is the Channel 7, I am watching, and this is what it says about this celebration I've never heard of. I don't know who it is involving, but the story evolves from this mention of these persons, these people, this group that I don't know what religion. I think they say it's Islam. I have no idea. There's people teaching and studying and learning and wrapping themselves in knowledge and protecting themselves. I am so at a debilitated state at the moment from whatever they know.
Here at home and around the world, celebrations today for Eid al-Adha. It's one of the biggest holidays on the Islamic calendar. One event today in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, at Bush Terminal Piers Park.
Now it references Bush.
It featured activities for kids and adults. Eid al-Adha commemorates the story of Abraham and his willingness to sacrifice Ismail.
Now, again, I'm looking, and the next stories, that the big board is putting up has an outside part of the world who just stormed their president and prime minister. They're bringing the news to me today. Today's Sunday where I am. This was mentioned Saturday. And so I then looked from the capital of where that outside territory is, and then there is a very important find that I had in my American consciousness in order to pull together something that I had heard of as a child but had no relevance. And I've never seen it, and I've never watched it or followed it or even knew that it's something to be cognizant of, because again, they have not moved this intelligence from silver screen and TV land producers who make these things into an intellectual construct for my generation to follow. They may have done that in other sections of my generation. Just to my specific person, I have not been brought up to speed or into that loop. But now I'm just weaving together these things on my own as I see them coming at me. Like an oncoming speeding bullet train at the age of 43.
Ismail as an act of obedience to God. Observances include a feast of sacrifice. We want to wish a happy birthday to World War II.
So that happened last night. Okay, so this morning, 10th of July, Jane Pauley, and this is what the big board says.
July 2022, and we'll be back after this.
Now it reads, both the president and prime minister of Sri Lanka announced they'll step down after thousands of protesters stormed their homes in anger over the country's economic crisis. First I'm hearing about it. In fact, I didn't even know where Sri Lanka was. I had to look it up on Google, on the map system, and it turns out to be an island off the coast of India. And this is what the population they're showing looks like. Here's more of what their population looks like. Because it's starting to look a lot like, again, I don't know where the population's been entering New York from, but I'm keeping an eye on whatever the New Yorker version of the news or current events is throwing at me in possibilities. Now here's another one. There's flags with colors. There's rectangles with colors. Rectangles with colors that I've never seen and I don't know how to interpret. Now it says Sri Lanka is billions in debt. To whom, I'm not sure at the moment. Doesn't say. People are struggling to buy food and medicine while fuel and other necessities are in critically short supply. I can't verify any of that. And I don't know why anybody would extend them billions of dollars worth of credit, putting them into debt. Why would someone do such a thing?
Steve.
Now, interestingly enough, in my quest for finding out where this news story and relevance stems from in Sri Lanka, it turns out that the capital of Sri Lanka, this island off the coast of India, is called, or what looks like phonetically, Colombo. The sound to my ear sounds like a TV show that North America had aired before I arrived. I looked at the numbers. I looked at a synopsis on the Google, and it says 1968. That's a special year for me. I've only met one person of significance from that year, ever. One that I find bearable. So, the Columbo reference, however, has to do with something called sun dance. It also has something to do with a TV show where, according to the synopsis, it says it was a who done it. WHODUNIT. So what happens is they show the crime unfolding at the beginning of the show, and then they show the lieutenant, and the audience already knows the crime that's been committed. And then they show the lieutenant as the lieutenant goes from, like, trying to solve and piece, as a detective, the lieutenant's a detective, trying to piece and solve the crime together. And the audience is brought through that process, but the audience already knows ahead of time what crime was committed. Um, it's again, it's this, I mean, it's this yin and it's this yang of storytelling. Um, so for me, I know that there are people in a greater knowledgeable position than myself before I arrived. I understand this completely. What I don't understand is why they've left me in this section um, without 1979, the one bearable from 1979. Or with who already had claim for me. I don't understand at all why it's gone so horrifically wrong. Um, so in the New York area, they had this Columbo thing, and it was a 10-year advance before I arrived in detective work. So, like, superheroes in Superworld of my day and age technically already had this super unnatural way or outlet of gathering together, growing arms together, growing brotherhood together, growing partnership together in order to protect their own families and the families surrounding them as best that they could, to arm themselves with possible sources of crime and like almost like a teaching tool for those that didn't have communal access or aficionado access. Um, where the disconnect's been is those children that had those really great fathers that taught those really great things when I was starting to have trouble in the local area, why there was not more like two-way communication. I'm not quite sure. Um, but then they show me this morning on Channel 2, Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on the local news. They have this commercial. It's called a USA Challenge, and it's at 22.05. And this is what that looks like. It says New Wednesdays. It taught, and Alexander is my cosmological constant and cosmological certain, delivered on a Wednesday. Just so Brady Bunch can keep up with on Thursday, and someone caught him on his birthday as a Wednesday, meaning Alexander James. And there is a commercial where it says there's this challenge somehow between Big Brother and then the survivor. I'm not quite sure where this challenge system is or who's involved in it. But what I will say is that the narrator or the voiceover or the person not being of my skin tone, not being of Rh negative blood group or blood type, nor Alexander's, nor Big Brother, nor Survivor for where we come from, looks very reminiscent of what was in my home room at St. John's my senior year in 1995 with a graduate date of 1996. Just to keep up with this Sri Lanka mention and whatever's going on inside New York that I don't have a control or a handle on at the moment.
Oh my God! Let's get this thing started.
It's smart for Big Brother to stay Big Brother strong. It's smart for Survivor to stay Survivor strong.
In the race for America's best.
Who got this? Let's go!
Which alliance
I have a lot of influence. The girls do feel threatened by that.
will be the...
She has a lot of influence and the girls are threatened by that. Oddly enough, in homeroom, I was not threatened by the person conducting homeroom, even though she looked nothing like me. And even though she was withholding information from my person, and she purposely misled me. There's proof and fact of that.
be the first to fall.
This isn't just a game anymore. This could be life or death. Let's go!
The Challenge USA, this Wednesday night on CBS.
Golden Nugget!
Here's where there's no challenge in the US. This has been the rectangle, symbolic gesture, and flag since my arrival and before my arrival that I'm aware of. And in Passport to Social Studies, within Alexander's lifetime, they are still teaching about Washington and New York's monumental men, forefathers. They're also teaching about the historical party representatives. Still looks familial. They're also teaching about the power players of the U.S. Treasury, and who had the majority stake in the linen system, also being of familial descent, along with the Big Five. So, let's see here. Here's a picture of one. Here's a picture of two. Here's a picture of three. And there's really nothing important about the labels or anything other than that when it comes to this challenge system that should not be even challenged. I don't understand. It's a federal system, and the states at the moment are having problems with things in government positions or positions of power that I have no idea how they took over. I have no idea how they got involved. I don't know who allowed them in. But it's causing a severe problem between management and government. Now, land placement and territory inside of this United States of America, and within North America, is under attack, is under siege, is had a problem with the appearance of something that has no governmental rights, no governmental say whatsoever, sitting inside and gathering in large numbers within buildings that others, I mean, there's outlaws in these buildings pretending and posturing as if they're in control of something and as if somebody gave them a voice or a say, which is threatening and challenging democracy at such roots level that it's totally rearranging the picture. And now, in generational gap between when it started and how voraciously it's almost like a candle where you snuff out the flame, but yet the heat signature in the smoke that comes up out of it, that's where my generation, my father and grandfather had flames. Someone snuffed while I don't know what happened. And now in my life frame, there's just this little small ember and heat signature with this trace smoke coming out of it. But now I have Alexander and I have New Wednesday to think about from Thursday being myself for what and when I arrived. So as goddess of love, in like a Freya way of thinking of my only son that arrived in the special cosmetic and cosmological signature with others that, well, one other that I know of significance that has the same signature, even though it's divergent only on the arc of the angels and of the like higher powers. Now they're coming at me where the land development, the land signatures, the land plots, PLOTS, like where funerary plots are dug and buried, has been under attack. And now, while that signature by confederation needs to step up and send me more confederation representatives that look confederation. Because what's going on right now in North America is the confederation is starting to look like non-Confederate members. And it's causing a incredibly difficult way of communicating one message for those that, I mean, how did Vanderbilt have one in every 20 of specific linen? And now our numbers went from 97 to 31%. Where's the differential? Is it aviation? Is that really where it happened? Or is it naval? Meaning the ships and the boats on the seas? Because, I mean, there's so much overlap, which I've been following the trends and following the way that they're speaking on it. But now there's this overlord addition to the lands being developed incorrectly. Newcomers are arriving that I don't know where they think they have allowance. I mean, it didn't come from inside. I don't know if it's outside forces pushing in, but that would seem to be the way, because inside force is the one that's being pushed up against and being like almost asphyxiated by this outside force pushing in and onto its grounds, its sacred grounds, its homeland. And now there's this new mention of something called a metaverse, which they're saying are property. It's a plat. It's a plat map. It's a platform. PLAT. Thomas Jefferson and I, when Eric showed up, had this conversation very surface, very like, he said something about a meniscus. And I said, isn't that thing in the, because he said he was a science principal. I said, isn't that the thing in the test tube? Like how to measure that's what they call it. Just for edification and verification that what I learned was really real. If he was a real science principal, I mean, check all your information. So, and then they reference something called Decentraland. Well, Decentraland theoretically would be something stratosphere or like stratic of atmosphere, somewhere in the ether. Problem is they reference something called Talkin.com. I mean, the Americans refer to it as token, but it's talk is the first three letters in this word talkin. And then it says something about cryptocurrency. And then it references superworld. So in the frightening things of what has Hollywood done, what has MCU done, what has Universal done, what has Miramax done, what has TV Producer Land done, what have all these production companies in between that are like little clues as to whose partnerships or who's partnering with who and for what reason at storytellers to keep some level of consciousness, some level of cognitive covalence instead of like outright cognitive dissonance. I mean, even if the story is told wrong, at least there's pieces and parts of the stories that can be fished out and rewoven back together. But the problem is that there's so many pieces that are under attack at the same time. It's how do you survive this? I mean, medically, I can see myself when I walk out in the sunlight. This is the sunlight now. I mean, between the visual spectrum is between radio wave. They said radio wave, something else. Then it was UV, and then I went to gamma. And there's two I'm missing somewhere in between there. Yesterday I was reading how they metric it. Down to like nanometers. So, but that's in the unforeseen realm. But that's where this meta coexists somewhere. What I'm uncomfortable with is how they're selling it as some speculatory thing and who's involved in it. We already have land disputes. There's easement issues. There's atmospheric and climactic issues. And then there's the hyperspace in between where there's issues affecting the anatomy and the ability to physiologically withhold, uphold, and withstand these advanced attacks on one's person that they can't visually recognize, sometimes until it's too late, when it causes some kind of parasitic on the health stature. I mean, again, it's so integral, and I know exactly what I mean, and I know exactly how to say it. It's just, at what point do I actually get help from Eric and America, as opposed to just being like under attack all the time? For Colossus and New Colossus. For those, I saw one man this morning wearing a hat that said the Big Five. I'm like, oh my God, thank God there's one other white guy that knows this. Maybe he has friends.
The next version of the internet is here, and it's called the metaverse. It's essentially digital platforms with places for people to gather and experience.
For my son and the protection of my son and myself before anything, just so it doesn't get construed or convoluted in the wrong epigenetic direction, since we are an endangered species, he and I. We're Rh negative. It's already been ancestrally, like blood ancestral, already confirmed it. There is significance between figurine, platform, and plot form. Being burial plot in the ground, the humans in my local area use these terms. Plat mapping is something interspatial, like James Webb Telescope kind of a thing, or Hubble Telescope, or whatever the NASA like woohoo's work with that the general public doesn't even know about.
Life in virtual reality. Some are looking at this as the new frontier, with an opportunity to own a piece of real estate there. Chris Raggi has a look at what's for sale and the virtual world investment potential.
The concept.
I would never, ever allow the majority of what's already up to no good and hurting me to own the real estate above my head, since they've already been infecting it and it's already having negative, devastating consequences on my plot walk from a plat mapped sequence, and my inability to find a helping hand to keep myself healthy and safe. Whilst
Devoting real estate in the
housed in the New Yorker section.
The metaverse is both simple and surreal. You buy and own a piece of property, but it's in a virtual world.
It looks a little bit like real estate in a digital video game.
What I want to know is who's regulating it and who's even allowing this to occur to just anyone. Where did classified information go? Where did privacy go? Where did health ministry go? And why the hell is the world descending into chaos at such a high velocity that it feels like it's out of control?
Form.
Andrew Kegel invests and owns property on this Decentraland platform.
They're calling it Decentraland. the perception is that there's nobody in control.
Decentraland has approximately 45,000 parcels available for development. There's a fashion neighborhood, a gaming neighborhood, a museum district. There's parks and rivers and all kinds of different areas.
Well, platforms are designed to be used on any device, so no VR goggles are necessary. Experts say the primary purpose for owning real estate in the metaverse right now is for special events like this virtual fashion show and shopping experience in this newly built Decentraland building. The property owner could theoretically charge rent, monetize their investment. Kegel says interest is growing.
Last year, the visitor traffic in Decentraland grew by 3,300%.
Property purchases are made in cryptocurrency. Some cost the equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars.
Who is able to sell this? Where is the market for this? I see they're bringing it to the public in this dangerous event and this dangerous theoretical that they're actually putting into motion. My purpose is, who is allowing such a thing? And why are they actually actively encouraging this purchase of this real estate? And what is the managing body that actually controls things like World Bank and food supply and so on and so forth? And here's their reference to Superworld
platform. There are 64 billion parcels for sale, with some going for as little as $200.
What you're actually buying is virtual land.
Now again, who is trying to sell space that they don't own? Survivor to Big Brother, hello.
Land covering the surface of the earth at any location that you want on the planet.
Rich Lotlicker is Superworld CEO. He says the structure of this platform is basically a virtual overlay of the earth, dividing it all into blocks.
People know where they live, know where they go on vacation, know where they have a business. They come to Superworld, they buy those locations of virtual real estate that correspond to places in the world that are special to them.
The speculation is the more popular places will ultimately...
The speculation. So at what point do the professionals with the guns, the ships, the whatever important people in the world that really don't go on television because they don't have to, at what point do they shut this level of possibility down? I'm just curious because it looks really frightening as to how and who thinks it's creating a market when they don't have permission.
Increase in value. But as with any investment, there's risk. Corby Pryor, a founder of the Metaverse Infrastructure Company, explains.
When you're buying metaverse real estate, you're actually just betting on a platform being successful and that your space within that platform is going to be used by many.
Pryor owns property on another platform and knows there may be an uncertain future.
The downside is that your investment goes to zero.
There's only certain allocated space, and if you want to be part of it, you need to be buying into it.
Claudia Costa is one of a growing number of women leaders in this industry. She's also a metaverse property owner.
I bought it as an investment, and I've also helped a couple of my friends who are up-and-coming fashion designers or artists.
This sounds really dangerous between the property management at Plot Map arguing or big problems with the newly declared Plat Map owners and the populations that still need to be kept healthy, informed, and have some kind of societal whatever. Currently in New York, it seems like there's big failures because there's this big arrival of what never belonged here, moving into here, and then being kept out of how the city is building itself without permission as well. More plot map is starting to look very similar to what this plot map proposal or prospectus is, and throwing it out there to see whatever reactions come back like a boomerang, maybe.
Use it as an exhibition space, for example.
She says it was a lot cheaper than getting a storefront in Soho, but value today and long term is relative, especially in an uncertain crypto market.
The burst of the bubble was a good thing, in fact, because there was a lot of noise and a lot of things not delivering value.
Okay, that's Chris Raggy reporting. It's 8:27. Another check on our top.
So there's the most frightening story in my son's future and my own. It's July 10th, 2022. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.